Yeah, absolutely. Let me know when you're ready to start.
This
Awesome. So
meeting is
guys,
being recorded.
awesome guys. Thank you so much for tuning in today's PitchGround webinar. Today we have Marco with us, who's the founder of an incredible tool, Popupular. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Correct. It's actually a very easy name. I've heard some people say they don't like the name, but we love it because it's essentially two words joined together, pop up and popular. Um, and I think it speaks for itself. We essentially allow for our users to embed popular various web services that they already may be using into a pop-up on your site. So hence pop-up and popular,
Yeah,
which I
it
think
took me
is
a
a
while
is a
to kind
catchy
of
name.
like figure out how to pronounce it. Like it's not one of those names you can just get it right away. Like you just have to put an emphasis. But then the thought process behind the name is really intriguing. It's quite exciting, and it's always like that's the most fun part when you're building a company, is figuring out what should we just name the project. Because it all starts with that seed, and the name is that seed that you put in, right? Before anything else. So it's always interesting to hear that. So Marco, over to you. You can share your screen right now, and you can start sharing what you have with us.
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to make a little correction. So I'm actually not Marco. Marco is a co-founder of ours.
Oh, okay, okay,
My
okay.
name is Romano. And I handle, yeah, so I usually handle the customer support and doing the demos. So there was another person from the team that was supposed to do this, but I took over. So I'm going to be doing this. But anyway, let me jump ahead. I'm going to try to share my screen with you. Let me see if that works. One moment. How to do that? I think I got to go here. Share screen. Okay. Let me also stop the video to save us a little bit of bandwidth. So um, let me talk very quickly about the overall agenda for today's webinar. I wanted to give you kind of general overview of the product, our story, where we're coming from, how do we get the idea for this product, because I think it's going to be useful for you to understand kind of our process and philosophy behind the product, and also jump into the general overview. I'll show you around the actual product, and also talk about the very topic of today's webinar, which is going to give you a couple of examples of how we internally use our own tool for our own kind of business needs, and how do we see our existing customers already use the tools. So a couple of examples, 5 or maybe a little bit more examples of how we can use pop-ups or embedding something into your own website via a pop-up in order to create delightful user experiences. So without further ado, we kind of touched on that briefly. So what is Popupular? We like the name from the very beginning because I personally am not a technical person. I have always been on the side of marketing and user design and kind of working with websites. And in my line of work, I very quickly found that there's one recurring problem that we were facing, which is if you have to run a lot of experiments on your own website, if you want to put something on your website in order to attract new customers or maybe communicate something to visitors that come to your site, or your existing users, if you have a web application, maybe you have made a change to your website, or maybe you're running a promotional campaign, it could be a pain designing the visual or the media and then putting on your website, because ultimately what it comes down to is that you have to go back to your development team, you have to go back to your creative team, the creative team would put together the visual, and then the development team would have to actually code it up. And then if you needed to create various different rules or segmentation criteria around it, it would always be a mess. Plus, no developer really likes to do pop-ups. I mean, let's face it, they love to solve difficult technical problems, and pop-ups just doesn't really make the cut there. And so, as a marketing person or as a person who doesn't deal with the technical stuff, you're kind of always stuck with having to wait on your development team to create a pop-up or something like that. And so it was a very common problem for me, and something that we faced fairly often. And so Popular was initially built out of our own need to deploy various different types of campaigns on top of our existing sites. Let's call them in-app messaging campaigns, right? Or anything that goes on top of your website for a variety of different use cases, from acquiring new customers, generating leads, to communicating changes, to doing customer onboarding and then customer support and customer success. So a variety of these different scenarios. So this is how Popular was actually born. We wanted to make it really easy for people on our internal team to be able to put anything on top of our website without always having to go back and wait for our development team to develop it. And then as we started kind of doing the same thing, and this is a very big difference from other pop-up products which you probably have seen or maybe you are already using that have been featured on PitchGround or maybe other kind of platforms. We get this asked a lot, like how are you different from product X and from products Y or from product Z? The one big difference is that most other pop-up products out there will ask you to build a pop-up from scratch and then fill it with whatever you want. Maybe you want to do, and they would provide you with a bunch of templates and different types of pre-built campaigns or something like that. And Popular is different for one very big and important reason. So one, most of us, and I bet that every single one of you watching is probably in the very same situation. You have a stack of tools that you are already using, which you've decided on and settled on over the years. Maybe for your email marketing use cases, you settled on a Mailchimp, but instead of Mailchimp, it could be something else. Maybe something you bought on a lifetime deal on some platform. Maybe there is a product that you use instead of Airtable, you use Notion, or instead of Calendly, you use something else. Um, Probably for every single person out there, you have a stack of your favorite tools that you are already using. And the problem with typical pop-up tools is that they ask you to build a pop-up from scratch, and then they have to build integrations with these tools that you are already using. And this creates a massive problem for you, because when you're selecting these pop-up builders, then you have to see, oh, does this product integrate with this particular email marketing product that I'm using? Can I collect leads from this particular pop-up and then send them to Mailchimp or somewhere else? And we sort of saw this problem from the very onset and said, look, this sucks. This situation is really bad. We don't want to deal with this whole kind of mess. And instead, we want to allow you to use your own existing tools that you've already settled on, which you bought. Maybe you're using them on a lifetime deal, and then allow you to bring those products into your website and make it really easy for you to integrate them. Because most of the products that we deal with, that we integrate into our pop-ups, they already provide an ability for you to embed them on your own web page, except for they don't provide all the bells and whistles that Popular then provides. And we're going to talk about that in a second. So that's one big major difference. The second thing is, when you look at our approach, you don't have to think about all those integrations. And a second thing is, when you compare Mailchimp, for example, and their sign up form to whatever sign up form a particular pop-up product can deliver, Mailchimp can definitely hone in on that one particular use case, which is the building the very best email sign up form out there. And the pop-up building product just can't really do that. They have to then cover a variety of different use cases, and they just simply don't have the resources to build, an email sign-up form as good as that of a Mailchimp. And so I think that's a very important point to stress when you talk about, our approach at Popular. So when we understood these 2 points, we said what we need to do is basically take all of these different web products and allow you, our user, to bring them into context of your website very easily and provide you with additional functionality that the native embeds from these products just don't provide, such as targeting certain pages and providing various triggers for you to trigger these pop-ups with these sign-up forms or video or calendars and so on and so forth, do segmentation, scheduling, and things like that. So that's kind of what Popular is really all about. Let's jump into a very quick demo of the actual product. I am here on a random website, literally domain.com. and I have the product launched. You see the menu here at the bottom of the screen. And this is the menu from a Google Chrome extension. Essentially, Popupular is two things. One thing is what we call the Chrome extension or the editor, which is where you create, where you edit, and where you can preview your pop-ups directly on your website. And the second part is the dashboard where you can actually manage your account. But most of the things and most of the time you will spend here in the Google Chrome extension. So I already have it installed. The way you use it is you go on your website where you want to create your pop-ups, and then once you're there, you just launch it from your browser's extension panel, and the menu is going to appear down here at the bottom of the screen. When you're ready to start creating your pop-ups, you click this big blue plus button, and it's going to give you a list of pre-built products that we allow you to embed. Apart from typical products that you see like YouTube or Vimeo and MailChimp forms, and we have a bunch, more than 100 right now available. We also allow you to embed things like web page views. So if you have a particular web page that you want to embed, you can do this as well as images. And then also for web pages, we allow you to embed them in two different ways. So you can use our own native pop-up to embed that web page into that particular pop-up, or excuse me, you can do something that's called a floating browser tab, which is essentially a browser tab that's going to be disattached and kind of floating, and you can move it around. And that is useful for certain websites that specifically ban being opened inside of a pop-up. That unfortunately does happen. For example, Medium blog articles prevent you from doing that, and a couple other products specifically ban that, and we have to respect it, but they do allow you to open it in a native browser tab. And so this is kind of a workaround that we found for that particular problem. So let's settle on something. Let's say you want to, I don't know, embed, a calendar. What you do, you just select that. We're going to open a window for you, and all we need is a link to your calendar, which you are going to embed in here. And then I already have a couple of these signed up. And then created. And then what happens is, let's go and look at a YouTube video, for example. So let's say I enter my link, that video loads up in here, and this is where all the magic happens. Inside of this window, first of all, you can resize it, obviously, to be whatever size you want. You can also move it around to position it where you want on the page. Let's keep it nice and centered. And then if we go into settings, this is where all the magic happens. So we provide you abilities to, first of all, decide how this pop-up will be triggered. Basically, what user action will trigger this pop-up into view. And we have a variety to select from. So you can show this pop-up if a user clicks on a particular element on the page, and you can select and bind that click trigger to whatever page element. It could be a button, it could be a link, it could be literally anything that you can select on the page. Now, same thing with hover. It could be on a timer. So you could say, I want to show this pop-up when a user has spent at least 5 seconds on my page, or if they've been idle for a certain number of seconds or minutes on the page, for example. If they have scrolled to a particular position on the page, which can be useful for a lot of marketing campaigns, or for example, when somebody is reading your blog post, for example, and they reach a particular section, probably somewhere closer to the end of the article, and you could say, hey, do you want to sign up for our newsletter? It can be powerful. The most common one is obviously page visit, meaning show this pop-up as soon as somebody enters the page. We also have exit intent. We're working on a JavaScript event feature so that you could link your events with Popupular, and then basically tell Popupular to show a pop-up in response to a particular event that's been happening in your app. So for example, if a user changes their status, or maybe they updated their subscription or something like that, you could trigger that in response to that. And then finally, you can actually turn this off. This has to do with another feature that we're going to talk about later. Also from here, you can target particular pages where you want to show this pop-up. So a typical default setting is obviously all pages, but you can also target specific pages and just add them. Popupular fully supports both subdomains and multi-tenant web applications, meaning if you generate unique subdomains for your users, you can actually deploy it across one page, and it's going to work across all pages regardless of the subdomain. And for that, we actually don't need you to write the whole top level domain. We just need the page structure that goes after the top level domain. So for example, if your address is domain.com and then you want to show it on a home page, then all you have to do is either enter this or just the slash, sorry, just a slash, which is what we have in here. And you can just enter, page like so, and then add it in here, and so on and so forth. You can also exclude certain pages from showing, and by using this, you can select which pages of your site you want this pop-up to appear on. From here, you can also control playback. By default, we set it to preview only, which means that you, as an editor or creator of this pop-up, will be able to preview it on your site via the Chrome extension, where it won't be published on your website. You can then choose live on site, which means it's going to be published on your website, and then choose both if you want to do preview and also publish it to your website. In order for you to publish this, all you need to do is install a small piece of JavaScript code, which is what we call a JavaScript tag, into the source code of your site. We provide instructions for most common website builders, including WordPress. You can also use Google Tag Manager, Shopify, and Elementor, and so on and so forth. Let's stick with preview only. From here, you can also control occurrence, which is how often does this pop-up show up based on these other settings. This is fairly basic right now, so you can set it to just once. You can set it to each time, meaning every single time these conditions are met, that pop-up is going to trigger, or until a user deliberately closes it. But we're also developing it based on user feedback to expand it to, show it, for example, only first 3 times, or maybe on a particular schedule, maybe show it, a couple of days and then do a pause and then show it again, things like that. So that's actually coming. That's already in the pipeline. From here, we can go in. Let me set this to page visit. We can go into the audience. So this is where you create your segmentation. Once we turn this on, we can then create an audience by essentially stringing together a bunch of user criteria. So this could be things like browser language, type of browser that they're using, certain cookies that they may have or are lacking in their browser, device type, referrer, location, and we're also bringing here an ability for you to send events into Popupular, so you can then create segmentation based on the data that you're tracking on your own end. We're also bringing integrations with popular products like Segment and Mixpanel, so that's coming soon. And then you can then build this audience and save it, and then that audience is going to be saved for this entire website, and you will be able to reuse it across different websites once it's saved in here. You can also schedule your pop-ups to start showing on a particular date and time in a particular time zone, and then you can have it run indefinitely or stop at a particular date and time. And within this time frame, you can also set it to play on all days or specific days of the week. We had some customers from sports space, and they, for example, have a recurring event, let's say every Saturday, and so they would maybe set it like so, and then would have certain pop-ups appear only on Saturdays for a number of weeks or months, for example. And then finally, let's turn this off. And then finally, depending on the type of embed you're using, there would be additional playback effects. So here we provide some of our own. So you can dim background, you can show or hide close button, and then we're introducing some animations and sound and stuff like that down here. And then depending on the type of embed, if they provide additional settings, so for example, YouTube allows you to set start time and then have it set to autoplay and either show or hide player controls. So these appear here. So for example, for some of the sign up forms, there's additional functionality available. For a lot of the video products, video players, they have additional functionality available here. So this is all gonna show up here and just make it easy for you to control all of these things without going into the code and then all of the developer settings that you provide. So we basically take care of all of that. So this is how you set this up. we now created that pop-up with a YouTube video link. It's been rendered, and then we go through the motions of setting the playback rules, the audience scheduling, whatever playback effects, and now we can just save it and preview it. Let me just make sure that it's turned on. So this is YouTube. See, playback status is inactive, which means that it's not published on the site, but the preview is on. So now, if we go into preview here, we can see exactly how it's gonna look and feel for your end user when you publish it on your website. So here it is, and I've actually customized the close button to be in red. It's customizable. You can change it to whatever color you want to match your site brand, for example. Here's the video, and we can start playing it right away. Works as expected. So that's kind of the basics of how to use the product. Some other things in here, if you go into settings here, we give you a very quick shortcut to the JavaScript tag, which you need to install on your website. And again, instructions on how to use it for Google Tag Manager, WordPress, Shopify, Elementor. The styling is over here, so you can change it in here. And then you can log out if you want to do that. If you need help, for a reason, we actually use our own product. So this is implemented using our own product using the floating browser tab, where we provide links to our knowledge base, where you can kind of see how everything works and get a refresher on certain settings. So that's available in here. Your saved pop-ups are here, and you can search through them, and you can turn them on, turn them off. You can duplicate them and reuse them and rename them and kind of control settings. And you can also see the views, how many views have these pop-ups gotten, and create new additional pop-ups in here. Now let's talk just briefly about other settings, and we're going to talk about a couple of examples. So the second part is your dashboard. So these are the things that we couldn't really pack inside the Chrome extension. This is basically the website where you log in. This is where you can control your websites that are saved in your account. So I only have just one here, but obviously you'd have more. And from here, you can actually do a couple of things. So one thing is you can change domain. This is useful if you happen to change the domain of your website, or maybe you've introduced a subdomain and you want to move your pop-ups to that particular different domain. So you can do this from here by going into change domain and basically migrating from one name to another name. That is important. Why? Because by default, we need to associate what we call an entity, which is essentially a folder or a collection of pop-ups to a particular website. And for that, we use the actual domain name. But if the domain name changes and you come to the same website and you launch the Chrome extension and the domain name doesn't match, then it's going to give you an error, or it's going to say, hey, do you want to create a new entity for this particular site? So to take care of that problem, we give you an ability here to change the domain and basically migrate from one domain name to another, like so. You can also view the GS tag, which you need to install on your website here for convenience. And you can also share access. So we provide multi-user access. By default, you're actually going to be the person who created this project, or who added the site is going to be the admin, but you can also add other users, which is useful if you're running an agency. You can do this for your customers, or if you have other team members that you want to allow to manage your pop-ups or manage your sites, you can do so here by adding a user. And when you do so, you can also give them either an editor role, which means that they will be able to view and edit and create new pop-ups, or view only roles, which means that they will only be able to view these pop-ups when they're not published via the Chrome extension, but maybe they're not necessarily going to be able to create or edit their data. And so you'll be able to just invite them by sending them an email. They'll accept an invitation and will be added to your team here. This is obviously also where you manage your account, where you can re-download the Chrome extension. If you've deleted it for some reason, you can access the Help Center, some API notes that we're building, and you can manage your account, things like your subscription and privacy settings, and close your account if you no longer want to use it, so that we're GDPR compliant and we don't bug you with our emails anymore. So with that out of the way, let's talk about a couple of examples for using Popupular. So Popupular is a very kind of general product. As you can see, there's a bunch of things you can do with it. But I wanted to show you a couple of things. There's some of them are on the surface, and some of them maybe not so much. So we just looked at the YouTube video, right? It's very simple. You just basically grab a link and you throw it in there. But what is this for? So obviously you can use this to for marketing purposes. Let's say somebody comes to your website and you want to launch it, and maybe you want to showcase your product, maybe do a quick demo of how something works. So that's kind of one example. Another example, if you combine it with something else. So let me show you. So something that we allow you to do is let's look at the very same YouTube video. Let's look at the settings. What if we change it to a click and then bind that click? I don't know. Let's do this for example. So now that's saved, and we're gonna save it now and save and preview. So here's why this is useful. What you can do with the click trigger is essentially provide various help bits around your website to help your users, to help explain certain features of your product to your users, let's say via video. So if you have videos already created on your YouTube channel, you can very quickly embed them and bring them into the context of your page, so that if a user is scrolling through your page and maybe they see something that they just don't understand, you can place an empty, a click trigger and say something, hey, do you, or maybe a link that says explain it or what does this mean, so that when they click on it, it will quickly pull in this video explainer, which they can watch without leaving your website and very quickly understand how this feature works. And then when they're done with it, just dismiss it and be on their way. And we found that by creating it like so, you provide a very good user experience, where users we can very quickly access information they need without having to leave your page, and this creates just a better overall experience of using the product. Let's look at another example. Let me turn this off and let's do this one. So this is an image, and it's essentially a button. So here's what we can do with images here. When I embed an image in here, we can also set an action, what's going to happen when somebody clicks on this image. And we have a couple of these. So you can obviously just close this very pop-up. You can open a link, or you can execute the JavaScript event, which is something that we were talking about earlier. And you can connect this to events that are happening inside of your app, which is a little bit more sophisticated, but can be very powerful. So let's stick with an open link for now. I'm just gonna, keep it blank for this demo, so it's not over too much. But here's what I'm gonna do. So let's position it somewhere here, or maybe to the side, and it's set to show on scroll, and it says 3,000 pixels from the top. So let me show you how that could work. So now go into preview mode, and here's what I'm going to do. So now let's say you have a visitor who's going through your website and they're just scrolling or maybe reading an article or post, and here's that button. It says like it, you can subscribe to our newsletter, and we can set this link to then open a web page where you actually have your sign up form, or maybe, and this is something that we've also received as a piece of feedback, open another pop-up that you already have saved with Popupular, which is going to contain the email sign up form from whatever product you're using for email marketing. And this can be powerful to kind of show these prompts in order to generate new leads, for example. And so they would click on that, and they would open another pop-up, or it would open another floating browser tab, for example, with a email sign-up form. This same mechanic, using the scroll trigger, can be used to suggest items for users who are shopping on your site, for example, or who spend a certain. If you use it with a timer trigger, if they spend a certain amount of time on your site, you could say, "Hey, do you need additional help for example, and you could then embed a knowledge base or a couple of knowledge base articles and maybe a particular article and kind of trigger it into view so they can see very quickly help information which you can provide. And we've seen a lot of our users succeed with that particular scenario. Let's look at something else. Oh, this is what I was talking about. So we have a slab help article, which is exactly what I was describing. So it triggers on a timer, and it says, hey, are you experiencing a problem with this particular page? Here's a help article that will, give you certain hints on how to set these things up or how to use this particular feature set or so on and so forth. So that's one example. And I had a couple of examples with the calendar, which are pretty self-explanatory. So, for example, somebody is going through your website, and you can have a button that says, sign up for a demo or schedule an appointment or something like that. And you can, again, with a click trigger, just bind that to that empty button, which you now don't have to code. And then when somebody clicks on that, or maybe a link, somebody clicks on that, it's going to pop up that calendar, and they'll be able to sign up for a demo straight through there without leaving your page. Let's see, what else do we have in here? We also allow you to embed custom code, which can be useful if you got your own type of thing going on. So I have in here a listing from Airbnb. And this is purely done via a piece of code which they provide, which you can embed here and again trigger on a variety of different kind of scenarios. I feel like I've been talking for almost 40 minutes now, so let me be cognizant of the time and maybe open up to Q&A because I can blabber on about this for a while. Turning this over to you with it.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Romano. That was quite a good amount of information. So there are a few questions that I got DM'd with. The first one is, you showed it on domain.com, right? So
Mhm.
can we just create it on our own domain, right? Because while you're working on some other domain, it's just a Chrome extension, right? But for our own domain, are we just going to like add a JavaScript and use it as Chrome extension to build them?
So you can via the Chrome extension, you can create it on literally any domain you want. But obviously, in order to show it to your users, you would need to install the piece of JavaScript code to the site. So since I don't own domain.com, I won't be able to install it there. But on my own website, of course, I just go and I install the piece of JavaScript code on my own website, and it works there.
But any reason of why to even bother using it on some other website? That
Oh, this is just for demo purposes because I wanted to show you how easy it is to create
Mhm.
on literally any website. Not only the ones that we control, because obviously, if I wanted to go and on our own demo website, you could say, "Oh, this is your own thing," and it's gonna work perfect there. So for demo purposes, we just create random websites, we pull them up and say, "Look, this is how you use this. This is a random website. We not control it, but everything works, and we can launch it on top of it. It's just for demo purposes, no other
Great,
reason."
great. So there's another question that's coming in, right? So there are some great pop-up builders out there where you have like all those exit intent, you have the forms and integrations ready, right? While all of those things are there, why like Popupular?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Can you repeat that?
Yeah,
Repeat the question.
my question is that while there are so many other tools already available in the market, like I understand that, but why Popular, right? Like I just want things to be simple. I just want a simple pop-up where I want the forms integrations. I'm able to build the form. I'm able to just customize it. And for those users, right? Why should they shift to Popular?
I don't think you should do anything. Ultimately, every single user is going to decide for themselves which particular product works best for their particular use case. We feel, and maybe we fail to bring this message across, is we feel that first of all, why are there so many pop-up products out there? Well, the reason I think the answer is very simple. It's because people want to show pop-ups on their website, right? And they
Right.
want it to be quick and easy to use. And for most people, the use cases for pop-ups are fairly similar. So you want to create an email sign-up form, or maybe you want to communicate something. Maybe you want to do a marketing pop-up or like an image or video or stuff like that. and like I said, I feel that those some of the products are great in what they do, but they make you create your own custom pop-up for everything and then style it. And we felt like there is a niche where you could just take whatever is available from whatever product you want to embed and just embed that in there. So let's say I don't want to style my own YouTube video. The way YouTube gives you an embed is a piece of code, and if you want to change something inside of that YouTube video, maybe add autoplay or resize it, you have to manipulate the code, which is unnecessarily complicated. In the same way with all of these other products that you may already be using. And so we specifically cater for that particular use case. You don't have to build a separate email sign up form from scratch in a pop-up builder. You just take whatever you're already using and you throw it into our pop-up, and it's going to look and work exactly like you styled it inside of MailChimp. You don't have to build your own new email sign up form in whatever pop-up builder and then connect it to MailChimp. It just one step less. That's kind of the whole philosophy behind Popupular. If you like that other pop-up product you're already using, great. We're not trying to convert you. We just thought that we found a slightly better way that works for us and works for other people that are using the product and like Popupular.
Awesome, awesome. I like the fact that uh, you are able to like embed things like Calendly, because sometimes it just becomes very difficult to use it on things like, let's say if you're using WordPress Elementor, right? Then you cannot
Mm-hmm.
really have a typical pop-up over there, and it's quite difficult because the one-click like sort of button pop-up is not there. I think that's a very good use case, and I think that's going to be very helpful, especially when you're building landing pages, I feel.
Yes, correct. And plus, it's a product that's developing. What we wanted to do is we had an idea for a basic set of functionality, which we felt were like the very basics that you need, such as triggers and page rules and occurrence and segmentation and scheduling. But then, based on user feedback, we're constantly discovering new use cases where we can link one pop-up with another, or create different types of tiny little kind of tweaks and connections that make it work a little bit more like Zapier, for example, but for kind of pop-ups. So you can create various types of experiences and connecting kind of one thing to another. So it's just another step in a no-code revolution, so to speak. And because we are not dependent on building our own kind of forms or making you kind of do these sort of things, and we just focus on connecting one product that you already use with another product that you already use in the context or the framework of your own website, that is kind of the philosophy or the direction where we headed. And because of user feedback, like I said, we see constantly new use cases, and we take the product there and we continue to add these things there. So the product is actually going to develop, and you're going to be delighted by some things that we're working on.
Awesome, awesome. So I'm going to move to my first question, another question, which is, uh, can you vary the display of pop-up by user device?
That's actually done automatically. We wanted to do this very easy. So if you create, let's say, a YouTube video, you don't even have to go and change it. It resizes automatically based on user device. So it's gonna the size that you set is primarily for desktop, but then on
Uh, so
mobile
I think
and
I think the question probably was that, can you vary the display, as in can you show different pop-ups based on different devices? So for example, I can show different devices
yeah,
for.
yes, of course. That's up in segmentation. So you can go and let me look at one. For example, let's look at this YouTube
So maybe
video.
you
So
can
I
just share
can
your
go.
screen quickly, share that maybe.
Oh, I am sharing my screen. Have you not been seeing my screen this whole time?
No, I just turned off.
You turned this off. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't. Okay, let's do this again. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Yeah, great. So if you go into settings here, into audience, and we turn this on. So one of the criteria that you can use is the device type, right? And so, sorry, I need to be using a mouse for this. I sometimes click. Anyway, You can basically segment users based on the type of device that you're using, and you could say, okay, I only want to show this pop-up to users on mobile, and it's going to work like that. Sure, no
Okay,
problem.
brilliant. I think users just want to make sure that you don't want to use any sort of ad blocker or anything when you're using and building this, because most often, like, there's a big chance that the ad blockers might be blocking some of these settings. Okay.
We haven't really had any of these problems. We consistently try to test whether Popupular is being blocked actively by any of the ad blockers, and so far we are not being blocked. Now we have to warn you, the way we use the way we embed content into pop-ups is via iframes, which is a fairly fundamental technology for the web. It's fairly old, but it's still around, and a lot of products continue to use it. But that being said, any one user inside their browser, if they see your pop-up, they can go and they deliberately can block that piece of content inside that pop-up. So if you abuse it for some reason, people can go and try to block it. Then there's no way around it. We have to, respect user settings. But as of right now, no VPN or ad blocker is actively blocking whatever pop-ups you create with Popular.
Awesome, awesome. So I hope, Bob, that answers your question. I'm just gonna quickly reshare my screen once again. The next question is coming in from Joginder. He's asking, um, can you please explain a bit more about what have you done to make the JavaScript code lightweight? Because site speed matters a lot. So does it affect like site speed by any chance?
Yes. So I unfortunately can't really answer that question fully because I am not a technical person. But what I can tell you is that we did receive a lot of feedback from the very early on days that it should not affect site performance. And I know that we worked on compacting the JavaScript code at least 4 times to make it extremely lightweight. We also provide an ability for you to load this asynchronously, where your page is going to load first, and then the popular JavaScript tag is going to load last, so as not to influence your performance of your page. And there's a setting that we provide where you can actually, by default, we do not preload any content inside of the pop-ups specifically so as not to slow down your page. But there is a setting for certain use cases where you want that, where you want to preload that content, where we allow you to do that. But again, all of these things are done specifically so as not to slow down your page and impact your performance. And so far, we haven't really had any complaints about that.
Awesome. Just to add to that, Jogenda, so I looked into the codes and they are asynchronous. So any sort of JavaScript that are asynchronous would never affect your like load speed, because it always loads at the end after everything is being loaded. So it shouldn't affect your site speed at all. With that, guys, just wanted to throw in that Popular is currently available on PitchGround on lifetime deal. You can just head to pitchground.com/products/Popular and grab your code right away. Uh, Depending upon how many websites you need and how many views you need, you can grab the right product. It's a brilliant product. We're already kind of like starting to test it out a bit, and very soon we will start using it on our landing page. Especially the calendar embed feature is one of my favorite features that I loved about it. So it certainly like fulfills my use case with regards to that. Definitely give it a try, check it out. It's an incredibly powerful product, and I'm definitely sure that any opt-ins, any pop-ups will definitely increase the number of potential times you have a good hook, and you right away like kind of tap in and you start generating more leads, more inbound leads for yourself. I don't see any of the questions out there. Any final closing lines that you want to throw in for people?
Yeah, I just wanted to say we are really appreciative of the feedback that we receive. It helps us really drive the product development further. So if you happen to pick up the product and play around with it, and you come up with something and say, oh, it would be cool for the product to do that. This is something that we love to hear. Please do send it over to us via email. We also got a Trello board where you could just suggest a feature like that. We also have introduced a number of places inside the product where you can suggest a feature. This really helps us move product development further, and we welcome it. So we'd love to hear your feedback if you come up with anything.
Awesome, guys. As you can see that it has been rated 4.6 stars out of 5, which is an incredible rating. 5 users have sort of left the rating. That's a very high rating. As you can see, the reviews are pretty fantastic. Give it a try. These are all verified buyers out there who have dropped in the review. These are directly connected. We test them out and we see, and then only those verified buyers are able to drop in the review. So to give it a try, I think it's a fantastic, fantastic product. The use cases are very unique and it can solve some very unique problems that I have personally not seen any other pop-up builders sort of solving it. Most of them are still building the traditional sort of features out there. Even the new ones that were out there were pretty traditional, but we decided that why don't we bring in Popupular on PitchGround, because it does something unique, it does something new, and it does a lot of different things, right? And at the same time, it sits around on your Chrome, making it very easy for you to kind of like make changes, add new things as soon as you have added the JavaScript code. And I think the segmentation on top of that is like the cherry on top of the cake, because you can then sort of start testing out different pop-ups based on people's browser, right? So for example, someone coming from Safari, you can probably show them much better lead magnet versus someone who's coming from, let's say, Chrome or Internet Explorer, right? So you can kind of like mix and match and create like a different sort of segment based on different browsers, different devices that they're using. If someone is using iPhone, right, maybe give them some different options. Maybe someone coming in from an Android, maybe offer them some more extra discounts, right? Because again, that's a user-based segment you can do. You can test out, and based on that, you will be surprised to see that when you start running such sort of A/B split testing and differentiating and personalizing the pop-ups, that's where it really shines up. And I have not seen a single pop-up builder in the market that does a level of personalization like segmentation. So do give it a try. It's a fantastic product out there. If you guys have any questions, you can come to the discussion section and just drop in your questions over here. The team would be more than happy to answer that. And at the same time, just check in the reviews. It's a brilliant product. And on top of that, you have a 60-day of no question asked money back guarantee. It's all automated. So if you do not like the product for any reason, just hit the refund button and you get your refund right away. It's 100% automated. You don't have to contact our support. So you are in complete control at every single point of stage, right? And plus you get 60 days of absolute no-brainer money back guarantee. So give it a try. Brilliant product. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm just dropping my email in the chat for everyone. If you have any questions for us, other than this, you can reach out to our support. I've dropped in and Romano, if you can just drop in your email as well for any of the users who wants to reach out to you, I think that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just join the chat here.
Yeah, just drop in your email in the chat. So that way everyone.
Yeah, you can. Yes. So just, send us an email at hello@popular.io with any questions, and a real human being is going to be in touch with you within a couple hours.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this product demo, Romano. I think it was absolutely brilliant. We're going to be doing more sessions. We're going to start coming up with more use cases. We'll start sharing more use cases with the community so that we can start seeing more people joining in the future webinars. With that, we will be wrapping up. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Again, to give the product a try, it has a lot of unique features. The only way you can really stand out in the market and attract more users is if you are the first ones to adopt. And that's where PitchGround comes in, because you are those early adopters who want to adopt new technologies and sort of like really take that first leap of faith and make those required changes, because you would see PitchGround coming up with brand new products like these with absolute new feature sets built up by all of these amazing founder. Do give it a try. I'm pretty sure you would be very happy. It's a very stable product. It's very mature and it's only getting better. The founders are incredible. The team is fantastic. You cannot go wrong with this product at all. With that, we will be wrapping up. Thank you so much everyone for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. I'm going to see you guys on Monday for yet another webinar. Until then, have a great one. Thank you so much, Mano.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.